Welcome, Norse fans, to Norsin Around, part of the Grueling Truth Radio Network, brought to you by MyBookie.ag. That's right, MyBookie.ag. where you can bet on all kinds of great sports like the national title game that just happened last night. Alex, tell us what have the Norse been up to.
All right, so we'll start with the men's team. They had 2 road trips up to Michigan, playing Oakland and Detroit Mercy Friday and Sunday. Both games resulted in a win for the Norse, improving their record to 11-5. The win over Oakland, 87-83, and then the win over Detroit Mercy with a 3-second-to-go two-pointer by Levon Holland gave them the 56-54 victory.
The crazy thing is, just how different those 2 games went. The one, very high scoring, and the other one, very defensive heavy. But the nice thing is they were able to win both those games, and with being road games, that's huge. Even best team, worst team in the conference, when you play on the road, it makes it tough.
It does.
Yeah. So it's nice to see, like you said, Carson Williams was dominant in that game, 21 points. Levon Holland, same thing, 19 points, doing some great stuff. Obviously, their free throws, hitting those like crazy, even though Coach, insists they don't really practice those. But they do an excellent job there. And, both those 2 main scorers, actually several of the players on the team, solid 3-point shooting percentage. So, just all the way around in that first game against Oakland. And, of course, Oakland, as you know, is one of the teams that are projected really high in the conference this year, just like last year. Yeah, so to be able to get a quality win in Oakland, that means a lot. And then, of course, going to the next one, shoot Detroit, which is not a bad team by any stretch of the mean. It's just, wow, how dramatically different that game was. It's, very defensive, very gritty, very intense. Obviously the scoring was nowhere near as high. It's just kind of one of those odd things. But fortunately, Drew McDonald stepped it up, and Carson Williams, of course, again, and both had great performances, same with Levon Holiday. And the nice thing is usually there's a third or fourth person that has a really good game. And that's what, of course, the Norse need as things progress along in the season, is to have that additional help. Because obviously those big 3, McDonald, Williams, and Holland, are going to do what they're going to do. They're going to come out and have solid games. But they, of course, need the assistance of, Garnett, who has been big, both or by Garrett or Tate. They've having those extra couple of players on the team that are able to do things, able to contribute, is really important.
Yeah, especially with Jalen Tate, and he's only a freshman. He had 3 steals and 3 blocks in that last game.
Exactly. And with being a strong defensive game like that, that's huge. Sometimes something like that, the 3 steals are even bigger than 3 baskets. And, of course, not just 3 steals, 3 blocks as well. He's just all over on defense, and that's the type of thing coaches love. Because if you can contribute, on both ends of the court, that makes the job easier for everyone else on the team.
Yeah, it's pretty much, it's always been a team sport, and that's what's important.
Exactly. And because that's one of the things Northern does. They do it the right way as a team. And then, of course, one of the other big teams in the conference, Wright State, is coming to town this Thursday, 7 p.m. Looking forward to that at BB&T Arena. Of course, it's going to be on ESPN3, getting a lot of coverage there, 15:30, getting some coverage there too. So, some good stuff. And then, of course, the following Monday, they're playing Cleveland State. So it's looking pretty good for the Norse.
Yep, and before I bring this one thing up, and also as a side note, January 26th, they're going to play home against Oakland. That game's going to be on ESPNU. So they got a primetime game coming up there. As for what I read last night on Twitter, Mark Story posted a Joe Lunardi latest bracketology, has 5 Kentucky teams projected in the 68-team tournament. This is men's basketball. So it has Kentucky as a 4 seed, Louisville's a 10 seed, Western Kentucky is a 12 seed, and Murray State and NKU as 14 seeds. Now, of course, this is just an early projection. Things can change. But it says here, never has there been 5 Kentucky teams in the Big Dance before.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I mean, the confidence of the state and just the depth in this state has been amazing. You know, with Northern being able to get those homegrown players that the UK or Louisville or even Western are passing on, or just, you know, aren't able to recruit because they're doing other things, those teams are, and we're being able to get the the Mr. Kentucky basketball from 2 years ago, and those type of players that are nice 3-star solid players, and building them up. That's what I like to see.
Yeah, exactly. You know, there's 7 Division I teams in Kentucky, and if 5 of them were to make it, that's pretty impressive alone.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, just the percentages alone, that's very impressive compared to most other states. I mean, I'm sure the Carolinas could probably make an argument on number of teams, or California, but then again, California's probably got way more teams, or Texas. So it'd be interesting to see, percentage-wise of the teams in the states, what state's getting the most, and it might be Kentucky. There's some good arguments to be made there. And then, of course, the women's team, they're also, on the 2 road games. Of course, theirs was reversed, where it was Detroit, then Oakland, as opposed to Oakland, then Detroit. Of course, they won the game against Detroit, and then they lost the game to Oakland. So, and then they got Wright State coming up on the 13th. You said you're going to be playing that game?
Yep, I'll be in the Pep Band in that one. And then after that, on Monday the 15th, they'll play Cleveland State.
And I'm really excited about that because that one's a doubleheader.
Yep.
I really like when they do that kind of thing. It reminds me, of course, because I'm that old guy in the front yard, telling people to get off my grass. But get off the lawn, young people. But I remember when it was doubleheaders, pretty much any time Northern played a conference game. Well, actually, it might have been any time they played anybody. Because every time I'd go to the games, we'd always catch the second half of the women's game, and then the whole men's game. Back when it was in Regents Hall, and the place was always crowded. And of course, as the people that work for Northern nowadays explain to me, the reason why it was always crowded is because it held a lot less people. But even that, just the atmosphere was always so intense. You'd stomp on the bleachers, and, the whole building would feel like it was shaking. It was just a marvelous time to be a fan. And it's getting that way. It is really cool. It's starting to get that way at Northern. Obviously, we're nowhere near, capacity like when UC's playing their home games at BB&T, but it's getting there.
Yes, certainly. I've seen a huge improvement in attendance this season, and the student section has been more lively than ever. The pep band's been great. Everything's just been great at basketball games this year.
Exactly. And it is a little unfair, because UC has been, in the tournament God knows how many years, and, they've been around in Division I for God knows how many years, and Shoot has the alumni to just, some of NBA elite, some of their alumnuses. So it's, going to be understandable that they're going to have a slight advantage, But Northern truly is getting there to where we want them to be, with the good attendance, with that fan support, and with people wanting to give back to the program and to help out and be a part of the program.
Yeah, and keep this in mind. We talk about UC and Xavier; they're very good. But just remember, we got to the tournament in our first year of eligibility. Not many top-notch schools say they did that.
That's true. Yeah, I was going to say that's the thing about it is, if they can do that consistently, keep making the tournament, that's going to just keep building. That's going to get that more games on the big networks and more coverage with the 1530. which is just going to help out everything all across the board. So that's what we'd like to see, is some of that top-notch in-state talent staying at Northern. So, it's got some good stuff going on there. Like we said, fans definitely need to come out to the game on Thursday and check out, Wright State, because that actually could be one of the bigger games this year. Because I know, of course, you mentioned with the Oakland game being on big-time television, but the Wright State might be the more important game. And, I mean, it's definitely going to start getting down to that nitty-gritty and getting them into the tournament before our tournament, because I don't want anything to happen to Northern like it did to some of those teams last year, Oakland or Wright State, that deserved to have made the tournament last year but ended up in the NIT and other ridiculous places.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's one of the ones that baffle me, that there are actually, and I looked this up last year, that there are actually things below the NIT, that there's 2 or 3 different other ones. There's like a Vegas tournament, there's a CIB or CAB, there's it's all kinds of other goofy stuff. But there's actually about 5 or 6 postseason tournaments that you can get into. So for a team to not make a postseason tournament, it just kind of baffles you. Must have done something really bad.
I remember my freshman year, the women's team made a tournament of some sort, and they were a 1 seed. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, because it was weird because originally they weren't allowed to be in a postseason tournament for the first 4 years, but some reason why they let them do it, it was kind of odd. But yeah, it was
I
nice.
found that interesting.
Yeah, because they weren't supposed to be allowed to be in it, but then whatever league or whatever people that were hosting the tournament or putting on the tournament talked somebody into it, and they were able to get into that, which was nice. So that's the reason why, we just keep hoping for the best for the women's program. I mean, obviously it's got a good history and a good tradition, and Coach seems to be doing the right things, getting that young talent in here. So
they're getting better.
They are. They're definitely getting better. Those big wins that they had, of course, the Green Bay and the Detroit Mercy. So, yeah, got some good stuff going there. Any final thoughts before we let the Norsin Around fans go, Alex?
As you mentioned, that Green Bay win was huge. They needed that. So I think that'll definitely pick up some momentum as the season goes. The Wright State, I always knew when they first joined the Horizon League, that was when I first started school here, I knew that Wright State was going to be our huge rival. I felt like this conference was perfect for NKU, and it proves to have been. So, fans keep showing up to the games. Things are just getting bigger and bigger here at NKU.
Sounds great. So for James Ernest and Alex Gray, the Norsin Around cast, signing off.